You didn't know when you had fallen asleep, but when you rolled over, you were almost embarrassed to find yourself lying shirtless next to Poe, who was in a similar state of undress. You paused for a moment to let your eyes sweep over his muscles, and you felt an involuntary blush rising to your cheeks. He was as cute asleep as he was when he was awake, his face relaxed with a gentle smile playing on his lips, and you lay there perfectly still as you studied him, as if hoping that some sort of answer would leap out of his sleeping visage and into your brain. You wanted him. You were at least pleased to discover that that much still held true, and you were happy that for once your thoughts seemed quiet. You snuggled back into him, running your bottom lip along his chest. Poe stirs in his sleep, and he blinks a few times as he looks down at you, his eyebrows raised as if he's surprised to see you. "Hey, you." "Hey," you reply back as you lean forward to kiss him. It's a gentle kiss, but you feel yourself being drawn into his warm embrace, and you press your chest against his as you kiss him, cupping his stubbled cheek with one hand. "I should get up soon," Poe says as he stretches, but he plants a kiss against your temple as he buries his nose in your hair. "You smell nice." "That's probably because I smell like you," you tease gently as you cuddle back into him. "But you should stay, at least for a few more minutes." "Maybe," Poe replies, but he seems to have no intention of moving. "By the way, I was thinking about taking you and Annie out flying around a car this week, to get his mind off everything. You think he would like that?" "I think he would," you reply as you kiss him gently, pressing your lips to his and pulling away as fast as you had made contact. You grin as you bite your lip and look up at him. "You really are way too good for someone like me." "Or maybe I'm just the right amount of good that you need," Poe replies amicably, running his fingertips down the length of your arm. "Don't do that," you giggle in a weak attempt to keep yourself from moaning. "If you do that, I'm not going to let you get up." "Is that a fact?" Poe asks, and he's suddenly playful, rolling his large frame over yours. You smirk as you wrap your arms around his neck and kiss him, pushing your body flush up against his. This was much better than before. Yesterday, you had been so concerned with trying to choose between Poe or Kylo that you didn't let yourself just be. Right now, your mind felt quiet and unconcerned with Kylo Ren, and for that, you were silently thankful. Maybe it was because it was still early in the morning, and you were used to spending your early mornings with Poe and your nights thinking about Kylo. That, however, would have to change. "I do need to get up, though," he insists, and you let a playful groan as he rolls off of you. "Can I ask you a question?" you ask as you watch him pull on a shirt. "You're always free to ask me anything," Poe says, his back to you. "You know that." "Well," you say hesitantly, unsure of how to really go about asking what you really want to ask. "I was just thinking, since Annie doesn't want to see him anymore, it would be a good idea for me to not see Kylo anymore either, right?" Poe stills for the briefest of moments as he turns around to face you. "Is this your way of asking me to tell you not to see him anymore?" "I mean, if you don't want me to see him anymore..." You raise your shoulders and then drop them dramatically. "I won't. It's just that simple." Poe just laughs as he shakes his head. "I'm not the jealous type. If you need to see him to work out whatever it is that you're going through, then go for it." You look down into the side, vaguely disappointed. Poe comes over to you and bends down, planting a quick kiss against your lips, and stays close as he continues talking. "But if you really want me to say it, then yes, you are absolutely forbidden from seeing him ever again. Do I make myself clear?" "Crystal," you say with a laugh, and Poe smiles as he kisses you again. "I don't know how long I'm going to be," he says. "Feel free to stay as long as you want." "Thanks," you say as you roll over onto your back, "but I should probably check on Annie and Latson. This is the first time I've been gone all night, and I don't want them freaking out and putting the base on alert." "Better put a shirt on then," Poe teases. "If they do, this'll probably be the first place they'll check." You snort and pull the blankets up to your underarms and cross your arms over your chest as you huff. Poe just smiles as he looks down at you, and you can't help but reassert the fact that he's far too nice, far too good. He's looking at you the same way Kylo used to look at you, and you know right then and there that you need to end this once and for all. As soon as Poe's out the door, you scramble out of bed and throw your shirt on over your head, running your fingers through your thick hair as you glance around the room. Ordinarily, you would want to take the time to explore the room, to see another side of Commander Dameron a lot of people probably didn't get to see, but if you played your cards right and did this fast, there would be plenty of time for that later. At first you head back to your room to check on Annie and Ladson, but you pause with your hand on the doorknob without even scanning your keycard. No, you had to do this now. If you were going to do this at all, it would have to be now. Seeing Ladson or Annie might cause a massive delay, and then what if Poe stopped by? Then you would never get the opportunity, and this had to be done now. Immediately, with haste, no more delays. You push away from the doorway with the balls of your feet and stride down to Kylo's room as fast as you could possibly go, breathing in and out through your nostrils. You had to be firm about this. You couldn't show any weakness. If you did, you knew he would sense it. You had to trust in the light side of the Force, trusting whatever Poe saw when he was looking at you, as if you were something precious to be valued. And damn right you were, and you were not going to waste your life pining over Kylo Ren when there was another fantastic guy willing to offer you and your son so much more than you could have ever hoped for. You had to be stronger than the Force bond, stronger than whatever feelings you had for Kylo. If you had ever been truly tested in your life, it was going to be now. You had this one opportunity to take back your life and to make it your own, and you were going to do it and never look back. Not once, not ever again. Hopefully, your natural affinity for luck was on your side, although luck would only take you so far. As always, you were going to have to do the rest yourself. You stride inside his cell with purpose, arms swinging at your sides as the doors part with the power of the Force. You step inside to see Kylo sitting with his back against the wall, hands at his sides, watching you as you come in. And so she returns, he muses under his breath, as if it's a joke that's not really all that funny. For the last time, you say sternly, almost but not quite glaring, and Kylo narrows his eyes as he appraises you. Yeah? Kylo asks, seemingly satisfied by what he sees as he looks away from you again. We'll see. I slept with Poe last night. You practically spit the words on the floor in front of him, and Kylo turns to look at you, a mixture of emotions across his face. Jealousy, hurt, anger, all reflected in his dark eyes, and you catch yourself biting your lip and force yourself to stop. No, you would not let yourself look weak, or hesitant, or unsure. You had to be confident. That's what Poe had always told you, right? You had to have confidence in yourself. You had to believe in yourself like all of your friends did. Kylo just laughs at you, but it's a soft, pitiful sound that tugs on your heartstrings. You know I'm locked in here, he says as he turns to face you. So that's how you attempt to make me jealous? By sleeping with the pilot? I didn't do it to make you jealous, you say incredulously, and honestly, the thought had never once crossed your mind. I did it for me, because I am over you. Kylo sits up and starts walking towards you, but you refuse to be intimidated as you take a few steps back until your back is against the wall. Whatever we had before, it's gone now. You're a prisoner here, and it's not going to work out, and that's besides the point, because I can't forgive you for what you've done. I don't have feelings for you anymore. It's as simple as that. Really? Kylo asks. His face is dangerously close to yours now, and you're worried he's going to kiss you when suddenly he puts his hands on either side of your head. You flinch instinctively, but you don't have time to protect yourself as a jolt of pain rushes through you, and you watch the images of last night and this morning flit through your brain. You push him off of you, and Kylo steps back as his lips twist in a triumphant sneer. I knew you didn't really sleep with him. Look again, you snap angrily, but thanks for reasserting why I can't be with you anymore. Even if Poe had the Force, he would never just grab hold of my memory simply because he could. And if you were really paying attention, you would see that I did sleep with him. I just didn't fuck him. Because of me. Kylo is gloating in front of you now, and you can feel hot, wet tears brimming in your eyes. Did he not understand how much this was tearing you apart? Did he not care about how much this was hurting you? You felt anger strike through you, hot and ugly, like a scar running up your middle, slicing you in two, and suddenly you don't hold back. You don't want to hold back anymore, and you embrace your anger. I hate you! You scream, your voice rough and raw with emotion. I hate you so much because I want to be with Poe. I really fucking do. And yet I can't stop thinking about you because I am so drawn to you. And I don't know if it's the Force bond or what, but I need to be strong enough to control it. I have to stop thinking about you, and I can't. And every time I try, no matter what I'm doing, all of my thoughts link back to you in some way because you're mine. Kylo seals the space between you and kisses you passionately, his large hands on either side of your face as he presses his body up against yours. You want him. You hate that you want him, and yet you allow yourself to lose yourself in him momentarily. You're so angry you kiss him back with all the force you can muster, arms wrapping themselves around his neck, and you can feel desire pooling in your core before you turn your anger back on yourself and push him away from you at his shoulders. Because you're mine, Kylo repeats firmly. Because you're mine, and you always will be. No, you say, just as firmly, shaking your head from side to side as you wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. No, I can't be yours, and I don't want to be. Kylo just chuckles as he looks away, like your protests are cute antics to get his attention and nothing more. I don't want to be with you anymore, you shout at him, trying to get it through his thick skull. I have friends here. I have Rey and Finn and Ladson and Poe, and Annie loves it here. Shouldn't you want this for me if you cared even a little bit? Can you really not see that I can have a happy life here? If you loved me at all, wouldn't you at least want that for me? Kylo shakes his head and doesn't say anything. I should have known you couldn't be selfless, not even for me. You spit angrily, the regret palpable in your voice. I guess it doesn't matter, though. Luke will be back soon, and then he'll siphon your powers, and the Force bond between us will break. I won't be so drawn to you anymore, and I won't have to feel so guilty about this. You feel guilty because you love me, Kylo says, although his previous gloating is gone. He looks nervous and uncertain, and you're not sure if that makes it better or worse. You're right, you admit, feeling your anger slip out of you like water down a drain. You're right, Kylo. I do love you. He looks back up at you. I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't see you anymore. It's taking too much out of me. There's no future for us, and even if there was... You're just saying this because the pilot... Kylo starts, but you hold up your hand to stop him. I spent 5 years of my life waiting for you, you tell him, and you're almost surprised by how strong you feel right now. 5 whole years, just waiting for you to come back. And you may have had your reasons, but you could have left the First Order and come back for us. Whatever reasons you have for why you didn't may be reasons to you, but they're just excuses to me. If you really wanted to make it work, you would have found a way. You shake your head sadly. And now, the truth is that even if I wasn't with Poe, I still wouldn't want to be with you, and I mean that. You're not sure if you really do, but you force yourself to meet his eyes regardless. I'm sorry I led you on before to get you here. I was confused, and I shouldn't have. That was wrong of me, but I don't want to be with you anymore. Please know I mean that. But you still love me, Kylo protests, as if he literally doesn't understand how you could love someone and still not want to be with them. You give your head a quick little shake from side to side. It's not enough. Kylo stands up as if he's about to come towards you again, and so you just turn and leave the room, comforted momentarily by the knowledge that he can't follow. Outside in the hallway, you take a deep breath, and you're pleased that you don't cry, pleased that your hands aren't shaking. In fact, you feel lighter, liberated. This was it. It was done. It was finally done. Suddenly you feel a sinking sense of despair rise from inside your chest, and you know for a fact that this is coming from Kylo and not from you. You close your eyes and stand in the middle of the hallway and concentrate on meditating, taking deep breaths in and out as you slowly picture a bubble forming around your body, blocking off any and all external influences. When you open your eyes again, the feeling of despair is gone, but instead it's replaced by a feeling akin to dread, and you don't want to be standing there any more than you have to. Instead, you almost race your way back to your room, happy to see Ladson and Annie sitting inside the living room. "Where have you been?" Ladson asks. "We were wondering what happened to you." "She was with Poe," Annie says, and you're pleased to see him spinning his staff around over and over again in his hands. He was a natural with a staff, and you were pleased at this moment to see that you saw Annie when you looked at him, and not Kylo Ren. If anything, his natural skill with a staff proved that he was more your son than Kylo's, and you were hoping that more of your positive traits would assert themselves as he grew older. "Your spirit friends tell you that, Annie?" you ask as you sit beside him, but Annie just shakes his head. "He left the cafeteria and went back for you." Annie looks at Ladson and then lowers his voice to a whisper as he leans over and whispers in your ear. "We think Poe likes you." "Oh yeah?" you ask with a smile as a smile pulls at the corners of your lips. "And you like Poe?" Annie pauses for a moment, thinking before he bobs his head up and down. "That's great," you chuckle as you run a hand through his hair. "He likes you too. In fact, he wants to take us flying out around a car this week. Would you be up for that?" "Yeah," Annie says excitedly, and you can't help but smile as you look towards Ladson. "This is good," he says, nodding his head in approval. "You look..." He tilts his head to one side. "I don't know. Different. Lighter." You glance towards the side quickly, but Annie is still playing with his staff, so you raise your hands in the air. "I slept next to Poe last night, but nothing happened. I was still stuck on Kylo. I saw him today. It's done now. Finished. Over." You can't think of any more signs that signify that whatever was between you and Kylo was done, so you just seal it with a period in the air, pressing your index and thumb together as you hold it in front of your lips before punctuating it firmly in the air. Ladson just smiles at you as he gives you a thumbs up. "Poe," he spells. "Are you two official now, or what?" You just shrug, and it's at that exact moment that Poe chooses to walk into the room, and you realize stupidly that you hadn't fully closed the door behind you. "Hey there," he says with a grin, and he wastes no time coming into the room and bends down to kiss you in greeting. "Hey," you reply as you smile back up at him, and you can feel heat rise in your cheeks as Ladson gives you a cheeky grin. He raises one hand in the air as if trying to catch a bug flying across the front of his face. "Guess yes?" "I'm guessing that's a yes," Ladson says in two quick signs, bobbing his wrist up and down. "Hey," Poe spells out as he turns to face him. "I understand you." The signs are a bit clumsy, but they're there, and Ladson raises his eyebrows in surprise. "You've seriously been teaching him?" Ladson asks in surprise. "But you're an awful teacher. You couldn't even teach Annie." Poe laughs as he sits down on the chair behind you, and you scoot so that your back is against his leg. "No, I happen to be a fantastic teacher," you say. "It's just that Sadie was better than me." You poke Annie in the side with the tip of your foot. "Isn't that right, Annie?" "No," Annie says cutely, continuing to play with his staff, and Ladson and Poe laugh in unison as Poe runs his hand along the top of your head. You close your eyes for a moment as you relish the sensation, and for the first time, you feel better than you had in ages. You're no longer conflicted, no longer wrestling with yourself to try to choose between the light side and the dark. You didn't need to choose. When you were around Kylo, you would always be dark, and when you were around Poe, you would always be light, and you knew Rey would help you work to keep it that way. You finally felt a comfortable sense of balance, a calm sense of peace that you hadn't felt in years. Hey, Poe says suddenly, looking at Latson. When I was walking through the halls, I saw... Stop, Latson says quickly, and you lean your head back against Poe's knees to look up at him. Who'd you see? You ask. Don't tell, Latson says firmly, and Poe just cracks a grin as he looks between you. You snap your head forward towards Latson, your jaw dropping in shock. You ass! You never told me you found somebody. You were on a daredevil mission of life or death, Latson says, shaking his head. I don't know, it never seemed like the right time. You ass, you scoff as you jump towards him, smacking his arm lightly. Who is it? Tell me his name. How'd you know it's a he? Annie asks, tilting his head to the side as if he genuinely doesn't understand, and Latson and Poe both laugh as you crawl over to him. Do you know something, Annie? You ask. Come on, you can tell me. No, Annie says simply, and that makes Poe and Latson laugh even harder. No, you won't tell me? You ask incredulously. Or no, you don't know? No, Annie repeats, twirling the staff around and around, and you give up as you crawl back over to Poe, climbing onto his lap and throwing your legs off the side of the chair so you can rest your head against his shoulder. Everyone's so mean to me, you pout, and Poe just smirks as he kisses your temple. Please, we're just the right amount of mean you need in your life, Latson says. It would be boring without it. Boring? You laugh as you sit up on Poe's knee. No, you want to know boring. You lay back again so you have a good view between Poe and Latson. Did I ever tell you about the time we were locked in a meeting room together on the Starkiller base? Do not tell him that story, Latson says as he gets to his knees. He had a flask of Alderaanian wine, you explain, pointing to him and talking animatedly with your hands. And we were talking about how Sadie had such a massive crush on him. And oh wow, it was so great. I was being such an asshole. I can almost guarantee that only a very small part of you is an asshole, Latson quips, and you snort laughter out through your nose. Poe lets out a snort, but you and Latson are laughing so hard your eyes are burning with tears that are threatening to spill down your face, and even Annie looks up to look between the two of you. I don't get it, Annie says quietly, and that only makes you laugh harder. Oh man, Latson says, wiping his face with the back of his hand when he's calmed down. That was the best. This kid. You point to Latson as you look back at Poe and shake your head. First time we met Kylo Ren. Oh my. Shut up, you hiss at Latson. The very, very first time I ever met Kylo Ren was the first day we got there. B picked me and Latson to meet the Tortudaru and give introductions, and so we got there, right? Into their command center or whatever, and they're all talking with General Hux and Kylo Ren, and I'm staring at the mask, and I'm trying to figure out if there's like an alien under there or something. You thought that there were tentacles under that mask, Latson reminds you. Shut up, you repeat. Anyway, so he stops right in front of me, and he's just staring at me, and he asks for my name, and I tell him, and then he just stares at me and walks away, and Latson grabs my arm, and he says... You turn to him suddenly. Wait, what did you say again? I don't remember saying anything, Latson tells you. Honestly, I think I grabbed your arm because I thought you were going to pass out from the fear. Please, you say as you roll your eyes, name one time when I was ever afraid of Kylo Ren. Well, when he... Latson's eyes suddenly go to Annie, and he puts one hand around his neck to simulate a choking gesture. Please, you repeat as you roll your eyes again. I tried fighting him off, and then once he realized he wasn't getting what he wanted out of me, he stopped, and I called him a coward. You really called him a coward? Poe asks incredulously. After he almost... You know. You just shrug. I'm just very brave, I guess. Or very stupid, Latson chimes in. I prefer brave, Poe says, glancing over at him before looking back at you, and you press your lips against his in a quick, happy kiss. Honestly, you couldn't remember the last time you'd ever talked about Kylo this way, back to when you had first met him, as if it was nothing more than a fleeting memory that didn't really mean that much to you. You were surprised at how easily you were able to talk about what transpired on the Starkclear base without any pain at all associated with the memory of what could have been. It's so weird, you say as you intertwine your fingers with Poe's. None of that really means anything to me anymore. Like, it happened, but I wouldn't take any of it back now. You drop your voice as you look over at Poe. If none of that had happened, I wouldn't have met Rey. Or Finn. Or you. Oh, please. Letson says loudly as you brush your nose against Poe's. This is so adorable, I'm going to be sick. Please tell me you're with me on this one. Right, Annie? I like Poe, Annie says simply, and you suddenly realize why Annie hadn't been paying much attention to you. He had been spinning his staff around and around again, counting how many times he could spin it around without dropping it, much like you had done when you had first got it. He may have showed many of Kylo's traits early on, but you realize now that his tantrums and his looks were only superficial traits. He was your child in every way that really mattered. And I like you too, buddy, Poe replies. How about this week I take you and your mom out flying around a car? Would you like that? Can I fly? Annie asks excitedly, finally giving up on counting and putting the staff down. Of course you can, Poe says, sending a wink in his direction. You can sit in your mom's lap and help us steer. And that's how, a few days later, you and Annie and Poe ended up in the transport shuttle as you flew around Akara's atmosphere close to sunset, watching the sky light up with color. Poe disabled the co-pilot controls, but hardly bothered Annie, as he worked both levers furiously in his hands, pretending that they actually did something. This is so beautiful, you say as you let your chin rest on top of Annie's head, looking at the streaks of color that seem to bleed into one another. Annie didn't seem to have much appreciation for it, but you did, and you weren't quite sure why. You'd never been one for landscapes, or the aesthetics of scenery, but maybe now that you weren't in a constant state of stressing for your survival or your future, you could take the time to enjoy all the little splendors of life that you had overlooked before. Yeah, you are, Poe says, shooting a wink in your direction, and you can't help but roll your eyes as a blush takes over your face. You reach for his hand and he takes it, wrapping his warm fingers around your own, and for a moment you close your eyes and take in the warmth of his touch and the smell of Annie sitting in your lap, and it feels right. It feels like home. This feels like home, like you had finally had everything figured out. You finally have a happy little family that you always wanted. And nothing cemented this more than when you got back to base and Annie asked to see Poe's room. As soon as the door opened, Annie rushed in and his mouth dropped in childish awe as he looked up at the bunk bed. Without even asking for permission, he was already racing up the ladder and onto the bed, looking out over the room from his perch. I want to stay up here forever, he said, his voice hushed with awe, and you just laughed as Poe swooped down to kiss the side of your neck. He had let you stay that night, and you and Poe lay on the bottom bunk, looking up at Annie, who was more than content to dangle his head over the edge as he leaned down to talk to you about how he was going to make a band with Chewie and BB-8, using Chewie's growls and BB-8's beeps, and his staff as a drumstick to make a concert for the whole base as a thank you for letting you live there for as long as you wanted. Annie fell asleep talking, snoring soundly above you, and Poe lay with his arms wrapped securely around you as you laid there in the darkness, listening to the rhythmic sounds of his breathing. You raised an amazing kid, he tells you quietly, all things considered. Yeah, well, I had help, you say, with a quiet laugh. Sadie and Latson really did all the work. You're far too modest for your own good, he says teasingly as he kisses you gently. And you're too cocky for your own good, you reply, and he laughs in earnest at that one. That's fair, he says at length, but I guess it means we balance each other out nicely. I guess so, you say, and you run your thumb against his cheek as you kissed him one last time before you closed your eyes and drifted off to sleep. Not everything had to be between light and dark. Not everything had to be a life or death struggle for survival. Not everything had to be subterfuge and ulterior motives, with someone constantly trying to get the upper hand. There would be times, you would learn, when you could just be, when you didn't have to worry about any safety or what dangers or perils tomorrow would bring. There were times when you could simply relax and enjoy the moment, enjoy the company of the people you were with, and simply be thankful that you met them. Simply be thankful that they were in your life at all, even for what seemed like the briefest of moments. You could thank destiny for bringing you together, but destiny, it seemed, was a double-edged sword, for that would be the very thing you would blame if it ever tore you apart. Deep down, this had always been what you had wanted. You wanted to have a family, a stable, happy family, where you could fall asleep every night being held and knowing that you were loved unconditionally, flaws and all, and where Annie could have a stable upbringing where he could flourish into the great man you always knew he was destined to be. It was so strange to finally get what you wanted without having to worry about what would happen next, that it allowed you to slip into a false sense of comfort, a deceptive sense of security that you didn't expect to be broken, simply because you had not been paying attention to the subtle signs all around you. Rey had told you a very sage piece of advice when you had entered her green room for the first time. Life doesn't always work out the way we expect or want. At this point in time, this piece of advice would have hardly mattered to you. You felt like you had everything that you wanted, that your life couldn't possibly get any better than where you were at now. You were simply waiting for Rey and Finn and Luke to return so that the lot of you could get together and celebrate a proper victory, so you could properly thank everyone for their role in making your life as good as you deemed it could possibly be. You were beginning to think that your story, for once, would have a happy ending. And you were, oh, so mistaken.